Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. So we are talking about how spirituality is not spirituality. How it's not called spirituality. So basically, here's the principle. Spirituality runs the universe. Spiritual law runs the universe. So everything is spiritual. But we don't realize it as spirituality. And so when we do something that works, if it works, then it's a version of spirituality because spiritual law runs everything. So there's a lot of things that obviously that work in this world, that get a desired result, but we don't call it spirituality because we don't necessarily draw the line to connect with, how it works and why it works to a spiritual law. So basically what I'm saying is that everybody is living spiritually in one way, shape, or form, and everything that works is a version of spirituality. And I think that the kids, the millennials and the kids coming into this world now are really good examples of that because they're coming in a lot more spiritual than previous generations. And they just do stuff that's spiritual, but they don't call it spiritual. And a lot of people who are on this journey, like myself, that have kids, it's kind of amazing to watch because, if you ask my son, what he thinks about spirituality, he's like, oh, that's my dad's stuff. That's his stuff. So he's not real into spirituality, but he's been around it. And he's very spiritual. So he just implements it in ways in his life that just naturally, he manifests things and does all this stuff naturally. And he's been around me enough where he's gotten used to me calling it spiritual. So he doesn't get completely frustrated. But a lot of other kids don't have a parent like me that's always been talking about it their whole lives. So they don't think it's spirituality at all. They don't make the correlation at all. They're just yeah, whatever, spiritual, ooh, all that weird stuff that you talk about. I'm just doing this. And the parents what the heck? How are they doing this stuff if they don't know anything about spirituality? And I'm over here trying to learn spirituality and trying to implement it in my life, and they're doing it better than I'm doing it. Things are working out better for them than they're working out for me. And it's a lot of times what it is it's because it's natural to them. They don't need to learn how to do it. They don't have to overcome 30, 40, 50 years of conditioning to try to figure out how to interact with life in a spiritual way. They just do it, and it's crazy. It's profound and it's nuts.
Oh, hey, Glenn.
Hi, Ben.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. That was a solid 3:30. Yeah. So why is that?
I'm not telling.
Okay. Well, if you want to find Glenn, you can.
Why what?
Why are kids? First of all, don't use. Stop it with the millennial thing. Second,
why? They're special.
What? Second, no, what is why do you think this is? I know that we've talked about it. You did a whole episode years ago about the tipping point, and this seems like which is when, something gets to 51% and it creates a change, like a sociological change. Why why is this happening? And isn't this one of the clear signs that you're getting to that tipping point where, people that are younger generations, children and young adults are living more spiritually or living more consciously would be another way to say it. I think that's what you're saying, at least, that they're living more consciously, or they're doing things. So can you give me some examples of that and why you think it's happening?
Well, yeah, I think it is part of the big spiritual shift. I think that it's happening because it has to. I think, because our technology has gotten to the point where we're at the verge of killing ourselves off as a species. So like, that's when evolution happens. So that's why this shift is occurring. So I think, it only makes sense that if we're going to be stepping into a new way of being, that the people that are being birthed into this world are more open to that type of being, so they can embrace it more. That's what evolution is. That's what evolution looks like. So the fact that, they're more open to this stuff is I think it's part of the shift. I think the generations after them will be even more open to this stuff, and it is bringing us closer to that tipping point. I don't know, when or even if that'll ever happen, but if it just depends. Like, it's picking up speed. I can feel it and I can see it, and a lot of people are talking about it that are aware of this type of stuff. But I mean, I don't think anybody knows how quickly it's going to go. I mean, it could take another 100 years, or it could take 20. I don't know, or more or less. So it's happening because it has to. We're trying to usher in a new way of being, and some of the things that it looks like. I'm going to use like the example. Somebody gave me this example a while ago, and I thought it was such a good example. Their child was graduating college, and they wanted to get a job that they really liked the atmosphere, and and had a decent starting pay, and like the people that they work with, and like the direction that the company was going. So they're telling their parent this, and their parent was like, oh my God, like, they don't get it. Like that, they don't get it. They're going to be going on hundreds of interviews, and they're going to be shot down, and it's going to be difficult, and they're probably not going to get just what they want because they graduated college, and it's, oh my God, life is going to smack them upside the head, and they're going to learn. And then, then the child goes on a first interview and goes, yeah, they offered me the job, and, and it's, the atmosphere is wonderful. I really like the people there. And they offered me a higher starting pay than I had planned on. And, yeah, it's wonderful. And the parents like, are you kidding me? Like, I've been trying to expect, that's the law of attraction, just like expect the best and walk in a direction of it, and, have faith that it's going to come, and not get wrapped up in the fear, and let go of the outcome. And there's another little piece. He said something about, I'm not worried about where you start me pay wise, because I know I'll work hard and I'll get to the level that I want to get to eventually. So I'm really not even worried about the pay. See, that's an attachment to the outcome, which is another huge part of the law of attraction. So, I mean, we're over here going, oh, okay, I have to let go of the outcome, and I have to try to not think of it, but I have to set the intention, and and we're trying to learn this. And, some kids over there going, I want this. I'll head in the direction. And then they just get it. And we're like, oh my God, how do they do that?
Yeah.
So that to me was such a wonderful example of these things. And you ask these kids, like, nowadays, what they're looking for, like my son, and and the kids his age, it's like, what are you looking for? And they're like, well, like enjoying their job is really important. And they haven't even gotten into the workforce yet. But they already know that, like, they don't want to spend the next 50 years doing something they hate. You know, they already understand that. They already understand that they don't want to be belittled and treated like crap just because they're 17. They know that. Like, and as adults, we're just learning that to set boundaries. Like, you don't have to be put down and yelled at by your boss to keep your job. Like, that's not mandatory. You know, like, and these kids are just coming in going, just assuming that, you know, they're not going to be yelled at and put down by their boss. And we think they're crazy, you know?
Yeah.
And what it is it's just actually they're ushering in a new way of being, and it's wonderful. And it's just natural to them. Like, why would I, you know?
There was a segment a couple weeks ago on Bill Maher's show where he sort of went off at young adults for still liking comic books and, you know, grow up and like just the general, like the problem with millennials or whatever. And somebody on Twitter, I'm not sure who this person is, but they said something in response. They had a bunch of stuff in response, and I thought that some of that really was represented in what you're talking about, which is they talked a lot about the reason my generation still plays in ball pits, reading comic books, plays dress up, blah blah blah, is that you know, we're not buying into the be a cog in the machine. You have to work. It's okay to be miserable. Like, you know, there's no. It's very apparent now that those things that were set up not even that long ago for, you know, for industrialization and stuff, like that's not, these are patterns that people got into that were unhealthy and caused a lot of issues and problems, and younger generations now are seeing sort of the results of this. And and you don't have to, like, you can find joy, and there's no difference between like a 40-something-year-old listening to this podcast or a Tony Robbins tape or something about like finding your joy, or watching an episode of Oprah where they're talking about, like, you know, you got to do what makes you happy, or you have to find something that like satisfies your, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just people that are 15 to 35 have been growing up with that message.
Right.
And we just instinctively now look for that.
Right. And it's very important, because I mean, that's what we're doing is, you know, we go, you know, when people go, well, I just want to enjoy my job. And we go, no, don't you understand? You're supposed to suffer and life sucks. Like that's, you know, that's not how the way the world works. Like, what do you mean that's not the way the world works? It's not the way the world used to work. I mean, you know, no, we lived in misery and everybody hated their life, and we have suicide rates going through the roof, and we have everybody on alcohol, drugs, or prescription drugs, or all three, to manage their lives because they're insanely unhappy. And it's absurd that we actually live like this. And then you have a kid coming in going, I would rather live a productive, happy, healthy life. And we look at them and we go, are you an idiot? You have to do it our way. Why? Because it's working so well? You know, like, I mean, what you're literally taking the best example of dysfunction and trying to say, no, a happy, functional way is not the way you should be living life. You should suffer and live miserably. What's wrong with you? It's like, wow, that's warped. That's warped. And people don't see it for what it is. It's we're just we've lived this way for so long, and we've thought this way for so long that they're just brainwashed that this is the way life is, and it's simply not. Yeah. And and this is what it is, like spirituality. So this is a perfect time to loop back around. So Bill Maher and everybody, which I like Bill Maher. Like, I think he has a lot of good stuff to say, and a lot of his humor I like and stuff like that. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, and spirituality is one of it, but that doesn't mean I don't like him and what he does, but like, so people who think that there's no spirituality, Bill Maher, just like a lot of other people, have reached very high levels of success. And the reason they did that is by spiritual law. But they just don't call it spiritual law. They don't recognize it as spiritual law. But that's exactly what it is. When anybody reaches a high level of success in anything, it's spiritual law. So like, law of attraction, focus. He focused his energy on what he wanted to do. What he wanted to do was something that brought him joy. So it's like, he found out what brought him joy, telling jokes. And I know that he's very into politics and stuff like that. Things that he's passionate about and brings him joy. That's what he did. And because he did that, and because he laser focused his energy on that, he expanded it to a level where he's experienced gigantic, huge levels of success. That's spirituality. Yeah. But people will be like, oh no, I suffered and I struggled. No, that's what it looks like from one perspective. From the old school perspective, you look at it and you said, yes, I struggled, and I worked in clubs many years, and I didn't get paid much, and I slept on couches, and it was difficult. Yeah, that's all just daily hurdles. I mean, sometimes we have to go through stuff like that. I started my business when I was collecting food stamps and just became a full-time single parent as opposed to a part-time single parent. Like, it wasn't easy. I struggled. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't spiritual, just the difference is I didn't look at it and say, oh, okay, you have to struggle and you have to suffer to get there. It's just, you have to stay focused on what you want, brings you joy, and keep walking in a direction of it. And eventually I got there, and eventually I know that I'm going to reach even higher levels of success because I'm continuing to sharpen my focus and fine tune it and head in a direction. So it's just simply spiritual law. So I think this kind of led us right into a perfect example of how it's, you don't have to call it spiritual law. You don't have to recognize it as spiritual law. But it is. It's just like gravity. When you can take somebody that doesn't believe in gravity and have them jump off of a building. They're going down. It doesn't matter if they believe in it or not. They can all the way down. They can be like, but gravity is a load of crap. It doesn't actually work. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're still going to hit the ground whether you believe in it or not. So, law works whether you believe in it or not. So you can call it something else, but it's going to be that.
There's another thing that I think is a sign of spiritual maturity, I guess, is what you might call it, that I see a lot in entertainment, or when I'm listening to podcasts or hearing people in entertainment industries talk about it, specifically for younger groups compared to like the old guard, which is like in wrestling, for example, professional wrestling, a lot of like the old timers now, like the veterans of 20, 30 years that were big in the 80s and 90s and stuff, they think that there's a bad lack of competition among the current group of talent because they're all friends with each other. And they're all 20 or 30-year-olds in the locker room, and they all really loved this growing up, and it's not just a job to them. They love it. And they get along with their peers, and they hang out backstage, and they play video games together and stuff, and they want to help each other. as well as, but they're not super cutthroat ambitious. And I was listening to a podcast this morning about comedy, and just talking about like the people who are in the improv scene and all of these actors that are, when they got into positions of power, they're helping each other do the things that person is the best at, I want you to come in and I want you to do your skill set, and it's like I want to help everybody, and I want everybody to play, what I mean? You're trying to help everybody, and there's less competition.
Yeah, and that's which is spirituality. See, what we're doing is we're getting out of a mentality of lack, and we're stepping into a mentality of abundance. So lack, it's like, well, if I have, then somebody else has to have not. And once we're understanding that it's there's plenty for everyone, and you don't have to. You don't have to take from somebody else to get.
Or the other side of that, if somebody has, then I'm going to be the have-not.
Right. Yeah. So it's like everybody can have. And the thing of it is like the older generations, this has happened always, there's a generation gap. So, but older generations, since it's a new way of being, they're going to look at it from the old perspective, and they're not going to see how it works. But the reality of it is it's going to work, because the audience that you're playing to is changing just as much as the people that are playing. So, the wrestlers, they're like, the old school goes, no, it has to be more vicious, and I want to see that real viciousness. And otherwise it's not real wrestling. And that's what the people want. It's like, no, that's what the people wanted when you were wrestling. Now, because the people who are wrestling are different, their audience is different too. So what they like to see, and it's just going to be a natural shift of ways of being. It's not like all of a sudden all the wrestlers change in a generation, but none of the audience changes. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
The audience changes right along with the wrestlers.
Or in comedy, like the comedy shows that are really popular right now, or things like The Office, Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and The Good Place. All of those characters are good to each other. They have externals, but they love each other, and the comedy isn't coming from insulting one another.
Yeah, and I saw a show years ago. I want to say it's Brian Grazer, but I'm not positive that produces The Voice. Whoever it was that produced The Voice, they were getting a lot of flack when they were putting it together, because they wanted a Simon Cowell.
Right.
They're like, well, no, over here you have the controversy. You need to have controversy, or else nobody's going to want to watch. And he was like, no, I don't want to do it like that. It's like, I don't think we need that for ratings. The judges can be kind to one another. And it worked. Yeah. And so it's like, that type of mentality is out there. We're understanding that we don't have to be mean to each other and step on each other. And it's, in business, what they're teaching, like when I was in Rhode Island for a little while, I was involved with Anytime Fitness, working there as I was starting my business. And the owners were fortunate enough to really get dominion over like the New England market. So, of course, with those franchises and stuff, they're really going in for trainings and stuff like that. And I remember one of the things that they were teaching was like, hey, I don't want to go to the mountaintop alone and stand there because I have nobody to celebrate with. I want to go to the mountaintop as a team. And we can all lean on each other, and we can all experience the mountaintop together. And, that's spirituality.
Yeah.
And that's what's being taught in business. Why is it being taught in business? Because it works. That's why. It's being taught in business because it works. Why does it work? because it's founded in spiritual principle of abundance, and there is no lack, and we can all do it together, and we need each other. Those are all spiritual principles, and so this is that was beautiful. I loved how it led into that. This is what I'm talking about. Everything that works is spiritual, and because we're in an age where we have researched everything incessantly, we've gotten to figure out what works and what doesn't work better than we ever have. And if we look at what is being taught right now, look at what Richard Branson is teaching, and look at his business structure. Look at what is being taught in the whole business world. We're loosening up with corporate structure. We're giving people happier places to work. Why? Because it works. We're giving them more vacation. Why? Because it works. It makes them more productive. Why is it more productive? Because they're happier. What is being happy but spiritual practice? It's, everything that's being taught right now and everything that works is all based in spiritual law. And it's been like this since the beginning of time because spiritual law is eternal. But, what's cool about it is it doesn't matter, and what's nice is it really helps the growth of spirituality. Because if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't believe in spirituality, then I just don't use the spiritual words.
Yeah, but it's all the same. But
it's all the same.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like it's one of my biggest assets, because I've helped people that have been in like business and CEOs and way, way, way more advanced than I am when it comes to business. Yeah. And I can listen to them talk for 5 minutes and figure out their problem very easily because I look at what's underneath it, and that's the spiritual law. And when I tweak that, then all of a sudden it fixes. And they can see it too, because I can fix it in their, in a way that they understand, which is fun. That's why whenever I'm confronted with a new situation, if my ego ever goes, Glenn, can you do this? Can you handle this situation? I go, well, of course I can. It's just the same stuff. It's the same things that underlies everything.
This has been a great topic, man. Do you have any like final things to say about it?
No, I think we kind of touched on everything. It was fun.
It was a really fun conversation. Yeah.
Joyful, hopeful, and I guess that's the wrap up is, really, if you take a step back at everything that we just said and go, okay, what's it mean? It's pure hope, man. I mean, we are moving in the right direction. Everything is being taught and, bringing mindfulness classes to schools, that we just talked about and what's right with the world. And businesses teaching spiritual law, just not calling it spiritual law, and people focusing on happiness, and the kids nowadays just naturally being able to manifest things that bring them joy and step in, create a world that's more joyful and productive. It's just hope, So take that.
Cool, man. All right. Well, if you want to check out the video version of this episode or any behind the scenes type stuff, or just support the show, check out patreon.com/Glenn Ambrose. Become a subscriber over there. That's the best way to help out the show. If you want to contact Glenn for any reason, or find just the hub that has all of his podcasts, vlogs, blogs, everything, all the contact info, check out glennambrose.com. Glenn, we don't usually do 3 of these in a day. Spoiler alert, like this was a longer recording session than we usually have. They got better as they went on.
They always do, man.
Yeah.
The energy flows.
Definitely.
So, yeah, that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we will talk at you soon.
Glenn is available for life coaching sessions. To book an appointment or for more information, go to glennambrose.com, follow him on Facebook and Twitter, or click the link in the description of this episode.